Hey everyone, this is Mike, lead pastor of New Ground Church. We had a very special Sunday on March 3rd as we unveiled God's vision for the next several years for our community. We spent months in discussions, prayer, debates, grief, dreaming, and discovering as we just asked God to show us what He's up to. The one word I can use to describe our Vision Sunday was epic. It was one of our best Sundays ever. We tried to capture as much as we could, but we had a lot of different elements to the day. We had videos and stories and discussion. There's all sorts of things, but we'll tell you about all the places that you can go to learn more about the vision and how you can connect. In the meantime, enjoy the podcast.
Good morning, everyone. Are we on? Yes, we're on. Good morning. So, you see it's a little different in here. There's tables. You're sitting at them. As much as possible, we're trying to get everybody together so we don't want people too isolated. So, as you're sitting down, that's happening. For those of you that don't know, kids K to 5 are going to be completely in the children's wing today for the whole entire service. So, K to 5 will be there. So, there's a check-in station like you normally do if you're familiar enough, and then they'll be there. And just let you know, we've outsourced childcare today so that as many New Grounders can be in here as possible. So that's wonderful. But now we're going to have you all stand up because we're not going to change this. We say this every single week. We start a Sunday. It's an ancient prayer and blessing. It is kind of the foundational prayer for Jews, and Jesus was a Jewish rabbi. Said this as well, added on to it. We now call it the greatest commandment. Let's proclaim this together. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God. The Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, and all of your might, and love your neighbor as yourself. Let's worship together.
I'm Scott DeYoung, and it's my wife Wendy. We have been here since the grand opening.
I'm Maddie Phillips. I've been coming to New Ground for about 5.5 years. Our family had been looking for a church that we could stay at that was good for our family, for everyone, for us as kids, and for my parents. Through the Versluises, we came here just to try it, and we ended up really enjoying it.
We moved in a neighborhood a few years prior to that. We had tried several churches, but we came here and we enjoyed the message.
It's very community-oriented. It's a smaller church. You can see the strong faith that everyone has for Jesus here. We all come together as a big group.
Well, the people were all very friendly. Just seeing the way the community comes around people that are in need, even if it's not someone from our church.
The variety of people and ages.
I think for me, it's just the resilience of the people and seeing people step up, taking charge.
I have seen the youth grow since it started. It started out as just like a couple people hanging out at someone's house to what it is now, where we actually get together on Sundays and we have organized messages and a worship band. And I really like how it's grown.
People, it's kind of like an extension of your family.
The worship band, getting some of the youth kids involved that haven't been involved in the past is also really helpful. And then there's always a children's ministry where we're all serving.
The majority of people just go out of their way if they see someone that's new to make them feel like they're welcome.
We feel a lot more involved. We're all just experiencing the church more, and we feel more like a presence to the church, and we feel a lot more welcome, I believe.
You definitely need to come back more than once.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Mike. I'm the pastor here at New Ground. And if you walked in today, if you're usually a regular, obviously I warned you it would be different. It is. Here we are around all these tables. I'm just going to be a little selfish. I mean, there's a part of me that wishes it'd be cool if it was like this every Sunday. But anyway, we're just going to keep that aside. I said that out loud, and it's probably recorded now. So if you're visiting with us today, this is not the normal way things happen around here. You've come to a doozy today, our Vision Sunday. In fact, today, March 3rd, is our 6-year anniversary. Okay, good. We got some moods for that. That's good. As I told our team before this morning as we were praying, it's been a roller coaster ride of the highest of highs and lowest of lows here. Pretty much like a lot of churches, it seems, but especially for us. And to culminate on this day and what's going to happen today, just really excited about what God has to show us. So there's a lot of things that are different today, so I want to kind of give you a little outline of what's happening today, so you kind of don't feel like you're completely in the dark. If you have children kindergarten through 5th grade, in case you walked in later, we are completely having them in the children's wing today. Usually we are going to have communion today. We usually have them in here, but today we're having them there. We've actually outsourced childcare today, so we have people there. So as much people from New Ground as possible will be in here with us. We do have a potluck afterwards. That's kind of normal around here. So obviously the kids can come back and eat for the potluck because that would be torture. So we're going to come back in. Because it's our anniversary, there's cake. Okay, about 7 people are excited about cake. That's great. So we're having a time of celebration. It's probably going to be torture as the day goes on because it's all over there and the smell is going to be worse and worse. But the other thing I'm really excited about today that you'll see is I'm really not going to be up here talking as much. You're hearing me now, but there's a lot of voices in this, and that's on purpose. We had 25 plus people several months ago who spent 16 hours together over 2 Saturdays really praying and asking God what he has for us for the next several years. And today is the culmination of that. And so you've already heard some voices already. You're going to hear more voices as we go throughout the day. There's going to be more voices here up front that is not me, that we're really excited about, people that maybe you're not as familiar with as well. So it's just that's kind of an intentional thing, and I want to make sure you know that part of this vision isn't just a pastor-led thing. It really is an us thing. There's a lot of people that are involved in this. Also, and this might scare some of you, there will be discussion today. Which means you have to talk to each other. Okay, that's why you're at tables. At the table, you usually have discussions at the table. Now, I can't promise you what the content as far as like the tone of those discussions will be. Everybody's table is different, but there will be discussion today, and there's some wonderful leaders that guide you through that. There's also clipboards that kind of guide you. We'll help you out with all that kind of stuff. Also, just to let you know, as far as our tithes and offerings, we usually have a time where we designate for that. Today, what we're doing on the communion table, the central table, we have a couple baskets that are empty that look like this. And this is what we're going to do today. This will be different. We're going to do this as a come as you are type thing today. So anytime during the gathering today, if you feel led, as part of your worship to give, you can just come up and drop them in the baskets. You can do that all day throughout the gathering. You probably don't want to do it at times where you feel a little awkward and everyone's looking at you, but hey, whatever that is. But that's what we're going to do today, just to let you know in case you were confused about that. And then communion, we will have communion today, but it'll be a little different than what we normally do. Since you're at tables, and the easiest way to do it, we have elements, and there's a reason for that. We're going to disperse those out at tables today, so just to let you know about that as well. I think that's pretty much all you need to know at this point. But the first thing we want to do, and as the video, as Scott and Wendy and Maddie kind of talked about of, how long you've been here, what brought you here, what makes New Ground special to you. Some of you are visiting for the first time, and if that's the case, welcome. And some of these questions might well, I don't know if I can answer all of these questions, but your leaders have a list of discussion questions for part 1 at your tables. So we're just going to take some time to say, hey, how long you've been here, what brought you here, even if you're here for the first time today, and you may not be able to answer this third question, especially if you're visiting, but what makes New Ground special to you? And we'll have those questions up on the screen as well, but they're also at your tables with your facilitators and your clipboards. And also just to let you know, as you guys are talking, I'm going to have one of you, whether that be the person that's facilitating questions or anybody else who has legible handwriting. All right, chicken scratch handwriting, you probably shouldn't be doing this, but we want to record feedback and capture some of those little snippets of stories of what makes New Ground special to you. Make sure you write those down on the paper so we can kind of collect those and have those as well. So we're going to give you some time. Do we have that slide, by the way, Josh? There we go. How long you been at New Ground? What made you keep coming back? And what makes New Ground special to you? Take a few minutes, have some discussion. We'll come back in a little bit.
Yeah, All right, folks, it's going to be a long morning. Work your way right on back, please, so we can get going. Closer with this one. I never work with a microphone. I just yell at home, and they're all used to it. This morning, to introduce myself, my name is Rick, and I have the pleasure, good morning all of you, I have the pleasure of kicking this off, if you will. Let me tell you and assure you that this is going to be a short part. Julie and I, my wife, and by the way, I'm distracted because my grandson is here, Landon. And I don't have a watch because he's chewing on it. But the way we'll keep this short on my end is Julie and I have a system. So we run into people all over the place and they want to talk. Well, apparently I talk more than she does. So as I get to talking, she goes over to the next aisle and I will hear this sound, cuckoo. Literally, I'll be in Myers and I hear her go, cuckoo, and that means for me to move on and get back to business. So there is a plan in place if I get too carried away up here. As we get going, I want to take just a moment to thank all of the individuals that have been involved in us getting to our vision plan. A lot of people, Doug McClintock, Pastor Mike, the team, it's been an incredible journey getting to here. And we have an incredible journey ahead of us. With that in mind, go ahead and throw this up, please. This is what we hammered out, if you will, in those 2 particular weekend days last fall, where we got to a point where we had a vision for our church. Simply said, in the next 7 years, New Ground Church will become a center for multiplying leaders, connecting 250 people, give or take, to their divine purpose, discipling and sending them to lead transformative movements for Christ in our world. That's a mouthful. It was so exciting. Last summer wasn't necessarily my best summer. Some of you are aware of that, and I won't go into it. But to come out of what I went through with my family and have the opportunity to be on this team of people, 25 plus, to sit down, and we went to work. We had read this wonderful book, God Dreams, many, many exercises that we went through in those 2 days, where we not only got to know each other, we got to work with each other. We got to hammer it out. What is the direction of church? Where is New Ground going? I don't know about you folks, but for me, sometimes I come into church and I feel like, well, I'm here, now what? And we do the worship, but where are we going? Do we go beyond the walls? Do we go outside of here and contact people? We do some, and now it's changed. We have an actual direction, a vision, if you will, that will take us out. And for those of you that were here when Nate Yonker was here, the Ebenezer Ministry, our model is going to parallel with that in many ways. We will come to church knowing that we have an opportunity to make a huge difference, not just in this church, but outside of New Ground. And we have lots of communities represented here, not just Caledonia. And we can begin a transformation, if you will, and touch people. Go ahead and go to the next slide, if you would. So we have, with our vision, we have a 7-year plan. And that vision falls into that 7-year plan for us to have the ability to build the systems that we need to make that happen. In 3 years, we're going to move in an attempt to put 4 systems in place. We're going to look at a leadership pipeline, disciple-making pathway, a connection strategy or process, if you will, and an outreach philosophy system. If you look at Ebenezer, and how many people here got the opportunity to be here when the slideshow took place for Ebenezer? It was pretty cool to see how far their ministry has gone. So we're moving in that direction. So with the leadership pipeline, keeping in mind we have 7 years to get to our vision. That's where we're traveling toward. We get to the leadership pipeline and we look at an abundance of people that can lead. We look at identifying them. How do we identify those people? We look for a clear method to bring them through a pipeline, if you will, if you can picture that analogy. It's an opportunity for us to put people out there that'll make a huge difference in going where our vision is going. We look at disciple-making pathways, and do note, as I talk about these briefly, you'll see how they interchange and they move back and forth. With the disciple-making pathways, we want to look at how we grow to be more like Jesus. And that's what we're about. And one of the things we're very fortunate, Pastor Mike, you do this very well, is the biblical part. We're biblically centered. Our Christ vision is there. It's in the Bible. And we work from that piece. So for us, we keep that as the center of our focus. We build a pathway for others, and we build it so those individuals can transform and recognize their movements in Christ and be able to see their own transformation. Is everybody with me on that? Follow me? Okay, good. I got head shakes. Good. So now comes, I think, a little tougher part is the connection, the strategy process. Simply said, we will have an overflow, an abundance of leaders that will identify how they have made their connection with Christ. In that, as new people come into our church or into our communities, we have the ability to help them climb on board, make that transformation, and become a part of the direction we're going. Lastly, because I know I'm going to hear caca in a minute, the outreach philosophy. We're going to send leaders out that those leaders must have a philosophy of what it means to do this. The philosophy simply being, how do we make that connection in the community? Do we knock on doors? Do we take it to our workplace? Do we do it with special events? Those are just 3 small examples of ways that we can reach out and finish this incredible vision. I can't begin to tell you how exciting it was to be a part of developing this those 2 days in the fall. And all of you that were on the committee, you all know you're representing everybody here in the church. So we had a good smattering, if you will, for lack of a better word. And look where we are. We are here today on our 6th anniversary, and we have an opportunity to really take off and grow. So again, in the next 7 years, New Ground Church will become a center for multiplying leaders. Us, we all can become leaders, connecting 250 people to their divine purpose, discipling and sending them to lead transformative movements for Christ in our world. Thank you. I'm going to have Reba. Is Deb coming up too? Okay. Again, I'm not good with these things.
Thank you. That was great. I am Reba Ezel, my good friend Debbie Radmaker, and we're going to talk to you about the 1-year goal, which is called Table to Table. We're pretty excited that as we broke down heading towards our 7-year goal, what do we do for 1 year? What do we just look at for 1 year? So our goal was the idea of building relationships with each other, but also of bringing people in relationship to God. And so we're going to do that all around the concept of the table. So the goal is to have these 3 different kind of table categories, all pointing us to the ultimate table, which is the communion table, right? So the 3 tables we're going to talk about are the banquet table. We call it the banquet table. That's here at New Ground, building relationships right here at New Ground. We're going to call it the community table. And that's how we reach out into our community, not necessarily just Caledonia, but our communities that we're a part of. And then the other one's called the dinner table. And that's the opportunities that you have to connect with people like in your sphere of influence, right? The people that you kind of rub shoulders with. So the first one we're going to talk about is called the banquet table. And what we're going to do is, as we introduce each one of these different table concepts to you, then we're going to have a video. And there are people in our church who are already doing some of these things. And so we're going to give you a chance to just kind of sit back and hear their hearts and hear some of their stories about how they're already living this out, okay? So the first one is the banquet table. So that's right here at New Ground. And the key word I want you to think about here is the word connect, okay? How can we connect with people and engage with people outside of just the Sunday morning worship experience? So we do these things like with potlucks. You know we love food here, right? We all do food. That's always a good thing. We do like game nights, like Bunko. If you do Bunko, you got to watch out for Jacob Radmaker, though. He is like the king of Bunko, so watch out for that. That's right. So we have opportunities like that we are going to, throughout the year, we're going to be very intentional about having table events that are going to help us to connect here at New Ground. So Nate and Emily have been, we all been doing this, but Nate and Emily have some great stories about how they have done this since they've been at New Ground. So we're going to sit back and listen to how they are connecting and making relationships here at New Ground.
But it started off, we just connected with the age group that was familiar to us, which was our age group. We all had kids that were the same ages. We just started doing dinners every once a month. From there, it really took off.
One couple started, and I think they invited a few times in a row, but then other people picked up. It wasn't one of us just carrying it.
No.
It was effort in all parts is what it turned into, which I think is what has made it so strong. There's a genuine interest and desire for all of us to want to get together.
And I think what really drove it home too was when Josh and Jesse just threw out a random invitation to join them on their anniversary trip in Mexico, and everybody could make it. And we was like, okay, we're doing this. So we all just jumped in and took a vacation together.
How it all started was picking up people along the way. So initially, I was in a small group at the time with Maria's sister. And so she knew that we were moving to Also, and she goes, oh my gosh, my sister lives like a mile from where you guys are moving. You guys should get together. We started being walking partners. Just come check it out. So not long after they checked it out, and they loved it, and they ended up staying. And then we offered a women's Bible study here that Missy, Jesse, and I were a part of in the morning. And so that was just another layer of like, oh, we have kids in common.
And Luke and Angie were here from the beginning as well.
Yep,
So
and then I sat on the governing team with Luke, so I got to know Luke really well. And so at that time, I mean, the people that we've become really close with were the only people in that age group with kids. So like,
pretty organic.
it was very organic. Wow, all of our kids get along, and oh, who wants to go do kickball after church? That women's Bible study was a huge one to get us started. And then dinners actually came from that. And then there were a few of us that were kind of closer, and then they'd say, oh, well, I know these two because they were in my small group, and I can't remember who was who even anymore because it's been so many years. And then we're like, well, just invite them. And so, yeah.
Probably the fact that I wanted any part of a community. I mean, church before I came here was always like, go to church, get out of here as fast as I could, go wait in the car while she talks to everybody. And that's changed quite a bit.
I think one of the most surprising things that has been actually like joyful is how much your lives can intertwine together. So I remember telling my mom, I'm like, oh, I'm heading out, I'm heading to like one of their kids' games in the group, you know. She's like, really? And I'm like, yeah. She goes, I would have never thought to go to one of my friends' kids' games. Like I was just trying to keep up with my own kids' games, let alone somebody else's. And I'm like, well, our kids aren't involved in anything right now, and you know, I want to support them too. And you know, I think the cool, unique thing about New Ground is the fact that not only is there the community, but how much we include our kids in things. I remember at one point, you know, Jonah was like just nervous to talk to adults, and I'm like, can you guys just like make an extra effort to like say hi to him so he can practice like what we're, like look at somebody in the eye, and they were like, sure, for sure. Especially the guys.
Yeah.
The guys speaking into the young boys' lives. Like Tony's always, you know,
We can all,
giving Jonah a pound or whatever. Like he's just awesome. And so it's just how intermingled it can be. But that takes a lot of time and effort too, that you have to be willing to give.
it's really living life together. I mean, it's,
Like we hear bad days and good days. We do hear it all and get to celebrate and mourn. We've gone through it. We've done all of those things with everybody in the years that we've been friends.
yeah.
One of the things that has carried our whole church through, like when you say I'm so surprised that you're still here, is there are other pockets of this that have happened. It's just I'm pretty vocal about ours because I'm so thankful for it. But there's a lot of people who have reached out to form deeper connections, and we were military too, which is also a deep connection. And I've stayed in touch with a couple people, with a couple people, but not like this. And so it excites me that other people will, because I just at school and stuff, like, oh man, I see you post on Facebook, you have like the best group of friends, or even other people, my sister-in-law will say that, and I'm like, we do, I want that for other people.
Going on vacation with 14 people is pretty crazy.
It is.
To make work, and it worked well.
My 7-year-old can walk with somebody else and help take our tithing.
From day one, it's felt like home.
That's true.
You felt welcome from the first time you walk in. It's always felt like home to us.
And what's funny is we came to visit on Good Friday. We were like, we really want to go back for Easter. We went back for Easter. And so then I was like, maybe we really should like search for a church. Like we shouldn't like just go to the first one we check out, you know? So we actually did go check out a different church one time. We're like, we miss New Ground.
Did you catch what Nate said there? Really living life together. I love that. Just that phrase right there. It just kind of says a whole lot, right? One of the things that we were talking about at our table about what we like about being here at New Ground is it goes past the being shallow with each other, that we really get to know who we are as people. Beyond that, hi, how you doing? Yeah, I'm great. Yeah, me too. I'm moving on. And that's what being part of a community, being part of being in each other's lives is about. A lot of that happens in small groups. Maria and Ashley and all these guys with Nate and Emily, they have a great small group, as you can obviously what they were talking about, but they're not the only ones. There are other small groups, and there are other people that are part of individual groups and just being part of this family right here. If you're not part of one, I would so encourage you to get involved. I would so encourage you to be part of something that goes deeper than the shallow, how you doing every Sunday morning and skating out of here. That's just my plug for that piece right there. I'm not even supposed to even be getting into that. So I just get excited to see people that really love being involved in each other's lives. And I think that that's such an important part of being here. So, all right, sorry. I'm waiting for Julie to give me the cuckoo back there. So, oops, sorry, I'm filling in pens now. Okay, so what I'm supposed to be talking to you about is the community table, the second table, and that the word that we're talking about here is action. And we say to people, oh, well, I'll pray for you. Well, this is taking it that step further. What are you going to do to take it that step further? I'm going to do more than just pray for you, right? I'm going to do something about it. And here we're talking about harnessing the gifts and talents of our church and using them to impact our community. This can be done on an individual basis, as Fawn is going to talk about in the next video. It can also be done as a community group, as we did once not that long ago at the Nighthawk. Some of you remember when we supported a family that needed help, and we did something not every church does. We went to a bar and we did like a karaoke, and we had band. We did something fun that was stepping out of the box, right? We can do that. We don't have to fit every square box. We can do something to help other people that might look a little different than what everybody else is going to do. And so that's part of what we're going to do. We're going to step out and we're going to do something to help people as a community group, as a church, as individuals, and that's what this table is all about. So the goal is the next step, and beyond just praying, putting people and putting it into action. So let's listen as Fawn shares about her experience helping. It shows that we don't have to look very far to see the needs in our community.
My friend for 30 some odd years. We went to school together. Her daughter was diagnosed probably when she was around 8 or 10 years old with epilepsy. She had been in and out of hospitals for stays because she was having seizures where she was non-responsive. She, like I said, wasn't responding to medical treatment. Any of the meds weren't working. Sometimes she was having 8+ seizures a day. Mom was having to take time off work all the time, and I said, how are you managing this? She says, I'm not up. And I said, some friends of mine in my community group were praying for you, and they asked, could they do a fundraiser? And she said no. She didn't want that. She's always been a single mom for years, very proud, doesn't want anybody to feel like she's mooching off the system. So I kind of respected that, and I said, if things change for you, you let me know, because we'd like to be able to help you. Some time went by. Another friend of ours said, had this dream, it was really kind of strange. I can't give you all the details about it, but I feel like God is pulling us in this direction, that we need to do a fundraiser dinner for our friend's daughter. And I said, I really don't think that's a very good idea. We already know that she's told us no. We already know that she feels very uncomfortable with being in the limelight like that. I don't know how we're gonna pull this off. And she said, no, I've already started putting some thoughts together on this. I think this is exactly what God wants us to do, and I think she's just gonna have to be okay with it. And I said, the problem is, if we do this, then we're gonna have to answer to her. I said, I think we need to put some thought to this. We really need to pray on this. My gut instinct is no way we should not be moving in this direction. We need to have the go-ahead from her. So about another day went by, and she called again, and she said, I really think we have to do this. I've already spoken with our friend's mom. We have her backing. Called her mom, and I said, what's your take on this? What do you think is gonna be the reaction? And she said, honey, I don't know. I don't know that this is a good idea, but if you're gonna do it, I'll go in with you on it. So we started putting together some thoughts. How can we do this without having to spend a lot of money? Neither she or I had anything that we could really put forward to be able to get everything on the table. And I said, I thought it was very important that just so that we keep money in the hands of the family, that we limit everything. We see what we can do to get food donated. What can we do to get door prizes donated if we're gonna have an auction? What do we do to get auction items donated? All along the way, we met all kinds of opposition. You are going to run into this person that doesn't think this is a good idea. You're never going to make enough money. So then you start to have all these different thoughts in your head. Am I doing the right thing? Maybe this is wrong. Just kept praying it through. People started donating with everything. We had stores giving us product. We had restaurants giving us gift certificates. We had people from our own church that donated craft kinds of things. Jackie made some crocheted animals that we donated. Mary made like cement leaves that she makes for out in the garden. Then we decided, what are we gonna do for entertainment? Maybe we just need to do a music playlist. And my friend kept insisting, we have to have live music. I said, you're crazy, we don't have the resources for live music. I sit down and I get onto Facebook and I see something that Jackie posted, and I said, oh, Jim has the band, the Bucket of Maybes with Mike. We need to contact them and see what they can do. And sure enough, they were all willing. Hands down, the band voted yes, they wanted to help us out with this. So they donated their time, We had Gordon Food donate all of the food. Cisco pitched in and helped as far as food went as well. Country Fresh donated all of the ice cream that we had as dessert. We spent a total of, I think it was $40 between the two of us to put together a benefit that raised over $2,400. I went and picked up my friend just like I was supposed to. We showed up. She still had absolutely no idea when we walked in those doors. And all of a sudden, as she sees this group of people that she thought our other friend was helping to cater another church event, she starts to see familiar faces and the tears of recognition start. And I thought, oh no, here we go. This is not gonna be good. This is not gonna be good. She's gonna start getting upset. And she turned at me and she gave me a huge hug and she says, did you seriously pull this off? And I said, no, we pulled this off. And I said, all of these people are here for you and your daughter. We wanna support you and love you, and we wanna make sure that your needs are met. So out of that, she was able to take care of all of her existing medical bills. She was able to put a little bit of money aside to be able to save for another hospital stay that's coming up this June. She was still able to put some Christmas presents under the tree to make sure that her kids had a really fantastic Christmas this year. There were so many naysayers along the way, and I would just say keep listening to that little voice that is prompting you to do the big, scary thing, because it felt so good in the end to know that we made that big of a difference. I think it opened my eyes particularly to being outside of the four walls of church and meeting people where they are at. Again, it's easy to take the easy road and to not face the challenge because it's never going to work. But if we can take those little baby steps, the little baby steps eventually become big steps, and you see these huge seeds of faith become enormous mountains.
So fun. So you've heard us talk about the banquet table, right? How we're going to connect here at New Ground. We've talked about the community table, how we're going to take action in our communities, whether it's individually, like what Fawn did, and kind of rallying people, or stuff we do as a church. The third table we're going to talk about is called the dinner table. The reason we call it the dinner table is because so much happens just in our homes. When you invite people into your home, this is what we're talking about, like with people in your sphere of influence. Who are your neighbors? Who are people you are sitting in the cubicle next to, people you go to school with, people that you just are crossing paths with. Wow. So I think back when I was growing up, evangelism was this door-to-door thing, right? You went knock on the door and you had your questions. If you were to die today, yeah, we're kind of getting away from that model, and we're into the who are you living life with, right? So the key word we want to think about with this dinner table is caring. Okay, how are you caring for those people that you are rubbing elbows with? And so we're going to try to be really intentional in the next year, and we're going to have kind of challenges. Each season we'll have a different kind of challenge about people. We're going to encourage you to like just open your eyes and be aware of who do you need to be connecting with and caring for. And the whole point is, and you're going to hear Donna talk about this in a minute, it's not about the food that you prepare. It's not about how clean your house is. Just ask my community group. They come over and love us anyway. Things are falling apart in our house all the time. I'm like, well, you don't have to worry about taking your shoes off because just feel comfortable. But that's community, right? That's caring for people. It's more, people are going to remember how you made them feel, not so much how pristine your house was and things. So when we were thinking about the video for this one, Donna Clemmer came to mind, and you'll see why in a second. Donna lives this, right? She just, every person she meets, she sees as an opportunity to care for people. And so you'll get to see kind of what we're thinking about with the dinner table of how you can just very easily care for people that you are running into. So here's Donna's part.
I just like people, and I kind of pick them up on the sidewalk. I have only been a single person for the last 2 years. All that other time before, I was with parents or my husband, and then children. I've always had a home, a family life. When I became single, I made it my purpose to get acquainted with my neighbors, with people walking down the street, or if I was taking a walk. It was Jack that said, I'm sure somebody will ask you over for dinner today after church, or you go home and ask your neighbors. Well, my neighbors was a black man from Arkansas, an old hippie with a long ponytail, and a crippled man in a wheelchair. I just thought it was funny. Here I am, a little white-haired single woman living alone, and I thought, I'm going to ask these men, because I had gotten acquainted with them in a way that they had let me know that they felt a kinship with me. They liked talking to me, and we'd just talk on the sidewalk or in front of our apartment. And I asked them to come for Sunday dinner. And I said, now I'm going to put a pot roast on, and we're going to have the whole shebang. I made apple pie, and they came, visited, and they left kind of one at a time. And when it was all gone, I thought, how peculiar. What a funny story. And the men all knew each other. There were no women in my apartment complex. There were mostly men. The women were younger women with children. And so then I began taking walks down the sidewalk, and I saw two men sitting on their porch. Felt like I needed to walk over to them and just make conversation. As we talked, I learned that they both were really just hungry for companionship, and they wondered who I was. And I told them and how long I'd lived there. And I found out the one man's sister lives in Tennessee in the same town as my sister. I don't think any of those things are accident, and they're a way to get acquainted. And from those first acquaintances, we've shared food, we've shared barbecues. The man from Tennessee said, I'll grill some chicken and you bring a peach cobbler. And I did, and it just started a friendship. And when I left that neighborhood, he said, oh, I probably will never see you again. But I came back to his house at Christmas and took him some cookies. And he couldn't believe it. He just couldn't believe that I came back. And that, to me, is as much as having someone at your home. It's meeting them where they are and showing them, yes, I will come back into your life. I do love you. But I also love the women that I've gotten acquainted with here that we've become so close to. We share going out to eat. I've had them in my home a number of times. We share birthday times together. It's not what you eat or what you cook. It really is just being together. I had a business acquaintance that came to my home, and I felt like the whole morning before she came that I should prepare something for her to eat. So I made macaroni and cheese and deviled eggs, and I had some cans of Pepsi that I don't normally keep. And when she came there and I told her what I had, and she just was overwhelmed. She said, my daddy used to work for Pepsi Cola, and that was my favorite drink. And my mama always made deviled eggs for every holiday, and my sister made macaroni and cheese. And she said, here, you fixed everything that's my favorite. And I said, it's not just me, it's the Lord showing you He loves you. And He wanted me to prepare just the thing that you would like the most. And I've had a lot of times like that. And I just talk to them and want to get acquainted. And sometimes, yes, you ask them into your house, just come and have coffee. And I've had neighbors then that do the same to me, and we share things. If I make or bake something, I take them some, and they'll bring me something another time. And it is a way to get acquainted. I have a new neighbor from Africa, a lady who tells a story that would just shake your boots and make you cry. You can't believe all she's been through. But she says part of her tithing, part of her paying back to God. She feels like she's doing that and giving thanks to God is to share whatever she has. Those are the things that just draw you into fellowship with one another. They're the things that let you know how much God loves us, and that's just the ways He wants us to show, His love to other people. It is simple things. I love doing that. And people seem to open up to you then, too. They'll share their life and share their stories, and you'll get to really know them. And I have met a lot of new people, not because I've wanted to bring them into our church. That door will open also. But my feeling is more than anything, I just want them to know Jesus. I want them to know that He will care for every need they have. Sometimes it's going on a picnic or taking a ride with somebody and stopping for an ice cream cone. But it'll definitely draw you together as a community. And we'll learn about each other. We'll learn where we're coming from and what our needs are, too. But I'm always surprised at how much people need love. They need somebody to love them. And ultimately, they need Jesus. They need to know how much God loves us. And I often say, like I said to Dawn, the only reason I made these things is because I really felt like this is what God was telling me to fix for you, your macaroni and cheese. And I think that brings people closer too, when you are telling them that you're really thinking and asking God, well, what do they need? What can I do for them?
I love that it's as simple as a box of macaroni and cheese sometimes, right? And Donna, we love Donna, her sweet, simple. It's just something as easy as opening your eyes and seeing what's right in front of you sometimes. And I love the challenge that Donna gives me to do that. And I don't always do that, so I'm appreciative every time I see Donna and hear her say, she just saw somebody walking down the street and knew she was supposed to say something to them or invite them over for dinner or whatever like that. So we hope that through these stories, you are able to see how we are going to intentionally use the idea of the table this year to build relationships here at New Ground in our community and with people within our sphere of influence. We want to connect, we want to care, and we want to take action. Around your tables now, we have those clipboards and those discussion questions, and we want you to take a few minutes to discuss the two questions. What about these tables that we just talked about excites you? That's your first question. And your second question is, what ideas come to your mind about how you can live this out in the next year?
I know you could talk about this, some of you, all day, which is great. And maybe you can continue that conversation by staying for the potluck. There's a plug to do that. I hope you've been excited at hearing all these stories, and that's intentional. One of the things that I really think is helpful as we, really with any church, and I remember this even at my last one, is just capturing stories. I've already at our table, the discussion was, I just didn't know that whole story. I only heard a little snippet, but to hear the whole story was really cool. And the question is, we need to do more of that, right? We need to tell more of those stories. And we're going to make an intentional effort to do that from at least while I'm here, now into eternity. I mean, we want to capture those things because, by the way, the Bible is a story. If you didn't remember that, sacred story, right? So, I mean, there's something about stories that compel us. And I think a great way to wrap up talking about our table to table, and by the way, if you've seen this kind of view with this template that we have, is all of these flow upwards, right? So our table to table theme is feeding into the three systems we're setting up with these that we have to have in place to realize our 7-year vision. They all flow into each other. And the center of that for our tables is the communion table. And we do that once a month here at New Ground, but it really is the center of all the things that we do at each of these three tables. If you think about it, Jesus is meeting with his disciples around a table, the Passover table. I mean, he knows these guys in and out. They're facing one another. I mean, he knows what's going to happen 4 days from now. He's going to rise from the dead. He knows what's going to happen the next day, right? He's going to be hung up on a cross. And he's knowing this, coming to a meal, having food, having a feast with his disciples. And it's intentional, it's proactive by Jesus, and really, if you think about it, it's very vulnerable. I mean, when you're sitting in front of, like, I think about when I sit in front of a dinner table, I mean, you are inviting people into a space that most people don't enter into. That's what happens at a table, is that you're facing one another that way. It necessitates vulnerability, right? And that's what Christ is doing at the communion table. I mean, it's the ultimate putting out there, right? He's basically saying, okay, there's this practice that they've been doing, and he says, he takes this piece of bread that they are used to eating around this table, and he says, hey, look, this is my body that's broken open for you and for many. I mean, it's an invitation. It's a statement about himself. It's an invitation to us as well. Every time you eat this, do this in remembrance of me. What does he mean? He's inviting us to something, to break ourselves open. That flows out to all of these tables that we're talking about. This is my body broken for you, for the sake of the world. And he takes the cup of the new covenant. And he says, this is my blood, which is poured out for you and for many for the forgiveness of sins. And every time you drink of this, you do this in remembrance of me. What is he saying? Listen, know what I've done. I've sacrificed myself for you. They don't even know what's happening yet. They don't know what's going to happen. Everything's great. And tomorrow he's going to be hanging on a cross. Like, they have no clue. Remember this. Don't forget. This is my example to you. I have come to break myself open and pour myself out for you and for many for the forgiveness of sins. And it's an invitation to us, right? So then, like, what does that mean? What does it look like to be broken open and poured out for the sake of the world at the dinner table, at the community table, at the banquet table, right? I mean, as you think of the dinner table, it's the most intimate and vulnerable of all. We can't hide there as well, right? We just can't do it. All the walls that we put up get cast aside at a dinner table. I think about Donna, the risk that she took. I mean, I'm thinking like, older woman with all these men. I mean, all the tension I felt even hearing the story, like, ah! I'm sure she felt much, more than I would. But it takes a tremendous amount of risk and vulnerability being broken open and poured out. At the banquet table, right? Talking about what does this church look like? What does being part of this called out community look like? I mean, you think about Emily and Nate, what's really cool about their story, they didn't program community. I mean, we have this idea that we create community. That is not true, friends. You discover it. You don't create it. You discover community. And I think Nate said it was very organic, right? It's just stuff but there was an intentionality. There was an effort behind that. Christ did that for us. And you think about the community table, we talked about an outreach philosophy and strategy and system. I mean, the table is a strategy if you think about it. It's not knocking on doors, right? It's not having a bullhorn on the street corner, or it's not putting vitriolous comments on social media about political agendas. It's asking someone to coffee. It's at the table. That is how Christ reached out. He did his ministry in smaller communities. Did he go to the big cities? Yeah. But he spent a lot of his outreach in connection with people, in deeper relationships. This is the example that Christ gives us at the communion table. I mean, there's so many different ways that we can connect that with all three of these tables, but that's the invitation for us. So here's what we're going to do. And it's going to be a little different today. I'm going to have a representative from each of your tables. If that's a Vision Team member, great. If you don't have one of them, it's fine. You're going to grab a basket and either carafe or pitcher and take it to your table. And what I want you to do, if you would, I would. That's why I'm not going to pour it. If you're gentle enough to pour it into the cups around your table for everyone at your table to have, let's do that, and then we'll all take communion together. Does that sound okay? So if you've had a leader come up, grab a basket, grab a pitcher and a carafe, and then we'll guide you through taking communion together.
Well, hey, friends, thanks for listening today. It was a historic Sunday for our community. And if you want to know more about our vision or our table-to-table theme, you can go to our website at newgroundchurch.org. We can find out all the information about that. Also, you can see those stories in video form. And throughout the year, you're going to have an opportunity to share your story of your journey to the table. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at New Ground Church MI for Michigan. You can find us on Instagram at New Ground Church, or you can email us at info@newgroundchurch.org. Thanks for listening today. We pray that you will live out the tables this year. Grace and peace.